Bhagavatam, chapter 6, Purush Sukta confirm. We try to understand. Shloka Kramanka 7 to 9. In the shloka, shelter in the Lord's lotus feet and the reality of the material bondage. We try to understand. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव
नरं
नरोत्तमं
नरोत्तमं
देवीं
देवीं
सरस्वतीं
सरस्वतीं
व्यासं
व्यासं
ततो जयं
तथा
उदीरये
जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु
नष्टप्रायेषु
अभद्रेषु
अभद्रेषु नित्यं
नित्यं
भागवत
भागवत
सेवया
सेवया भगवती
भगवती
उत्तमश्लोके
उत्तमश्लोके भक्ति भवति
भक्तिर्भवति
नैष्टिकी।
नैष्टिकी।
हरे कृष्ण। विक्रमः भूः भुव स्वः च
श्लोक नंबर 7 to 8। विक्रमः भूभुव स्वः च।
क्षेमस्य शरणस्य च
क्षेमस्य शरणस्य च।
सर्वकामवर वरस्य अपि
सर्वकामवरस्यापि
हरेः चरण आस्पदम्
हरेः चरण आस्पदम्।
अपां वीर्यस्य सर्गस्य
अपां वीर्यस्य सर्गस्य
पर्जन्यस्य प्रजापतेः
पर्जन्यस्य प्रजापतेः
पुंसः शिश्न उपस्थातु
पुंसः शिश्न उपस्थः तु
प्रजा अति आनंद निवृत्तेः
प्रजा अति आनंद निर्वृतेः।
प्रजाति आनंद निवृत्ते। 9 shloka is only shloka, there is no purport.
ओके माताजी।
पायुः यमस्य मित्रस्य
पायुः यमस्य मित्रस्य
परिमोक्षस्य स्नारद
परिमोक्षस्य स्नारदः
हिंसाया निवृत्तेः मृत्योः
हिंसाः या निवृत्तेः मृत्योः
निरयस्य गुदं स्मृतः
निरयस्य गुदं स्मृतः।
विक्रमः भूः भुवः स्वः च
विक्रमः भूभुवः स्वः च
क्षेमस्य शरणस्य च
क्षेमस्य च शरणस्य च
सर्वकामवरस्य अपि
सर्वकामवरस्य अपि
हरे चरण आस्पदम्
हरेः चरण आस्पदम्।
अपां वीर्यस्य सर्गस्य
अपां वीर्यस्य सर्गस्य
पर्जन्यस्य प्रजापतेः
पर्जन्यस्य प्रजापतेः
पुंसः शिश्न उपस्थतु
पुंसः शिश्न उपस्थः तु
प्रजा अति आनंद निवृत्तेः
प्रजा अति आनंद निवृत्तेः
पायुः यमस्य मित्रस्य
पायुः यमस्य मित्रस्य
परिमोक्षसे नारद
परिमोक्षस्य नारदः
हिंसाया निवृत्ते मृत्योः
हिंसाया निवृत्तेः मृत्योः
निरयस्य गुदं स्मृतः
निरयस्य गुदं स्मृतः।
विक्रमः भूः भुवः स्वः च क्षेमस्य शरणस्य च सर्वकामवरस्य अपि हरे चरण आस्पदम् अपां वीर्यस्य सर्गस्य पर्जन्यस्य प्रजापतेः पुंसः शिश्न उपस्थतु प्रजाति आनंद निवृत्तेः पायुः यमस्य मित्रस्य परिमोक्षसे नारद हिंसाया निवृत्ते मृत्योः निरयस्य गुदं स्मृतः। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण। विक्रमः भूर्भुवः स्वः च क्षेमस्य शरणस्य च सर्वकामवरस्यापि हरेः चरण आस्पदम् अपां वीर्यस्य सर्गस्य पर्जन्यस्य प्रजापते पुंसः शिष्ण उपस्थः तु प्रजा अति आनंद निर्वृते पायुः यमस्य मित्रस्य परिमोक्षस्य नारदः हिंसायां निवृते मृत्यो निरयस्य गुदं स्मृतः.
Translation and purport by the Śrīla Prabhupāda, Jagadguru Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai. Thus, the forward steps of the Lord are the shelter for the upper, lower heavenly planets, as well as for all that we need. His lotus feet serve as protection from all kinds of fear. From the Lord's genitals originate water, semen, generatives, range, and the procreators. His genitals are the cause of a pleasure that counteracts the distress of begetting. O Narada, the evacuating outlet of the universal form of the Lord is the abode of the controlling deity of death, Mitra, and the evacuating hole and the rectum of the Lord is the place of envy, misfortune, death, hell, etc. Purport. For absolute protection from all sorts of fear as well as for all our needs of life, we must take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, not only in this planet, but also in all the upper, lower, and heavenly planets. This absolute dependence on the lotus feet of the Lord is called pure devotional service, and it is directly hinted at within this passage. No one should have any kind of doubt in this matter, nor should one be inclined to seek the help of any other demigods, because all of them are dependent on him only. Everyone except the Lord himself is dependent on the mercy of the Lord. Even the all-pervading super soul is also dependent on the supreme aspect of Bhagwan, the personality of Godhead. The genitals and the pleasure of the begetting counteracts the distresses of family encumbrances and would cease to generate altogether if there were not, by the grace of the Lord, a coating of pleasuring giving substance on the surface of the generative organ. This substance gives a pleasure so intense that it counteracts fully the distress of family and uh, a person is so captivated by this pleasure giving substance that he is not satisfied by begetting a single child but increases the number of children with great risk in regard to maintaining them simply for this pleasure giving substance. This pleasure giving substance is not false, however, because it originates from the transcendental body of the Lord. In other words, the pleasure giving substance is a reality, but it has taken on an aspect of pervertedness on account of material contamination. In the material world, sex life is the cause of many distresses on account of material contact. Therefore, the sex life in the material world should not be encouraged beyond the necessity. There is a necessity for generating progeny even in the material world, but such generation of children must be carried out with the full responsibility for spiritual values. The spiritual values of life can be realized in the human form of material existence, and the human being must add up family planning with reference to the contents of spiritual values and not otherwise. The degraded form of family restriction by the use of contraceptive, etc is the crochet, a type of material contamination. Materialists who use these devices want to fully utilize the pleasure potency of the coating on the genitals by artificial means without knowing the spiritual importance and without knowledge of spiritual values. The less intelligent man tries to utilize only the material sense pleasure of the genital. Om Jnana ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं. वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवाञ्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देव श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सगणललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांच नमो ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिने ते नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात देश तारिणे वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, Hare Krishna. Today we continue Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2nd, Chapter 6, Purush Sukta, Confirm. Here we try to understand Shloka Kramanka 7 to 9. Here they're describing the Lord's further steps are the shelter for the upper, lower, and heavenly planets, as well as for all that we need. And his lotus feet service is the protection for all kinds of fear. Like this, they describing about the Lord's different parts and their activities. They're describing in these shlokas. Prabhuji will tell us in nicely. Hare Krishna.
Sorry. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So we have reached the stage where Brahmaji is now explaining to Naradji all the further details of the universal form. And at the same time, we understand its impact as well. So, the profound spiritual lessons which we are about to learn today are about the absolute and fearless shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. Secondly, the real source and purpose behind the procreative act and how it entangles one in material life. And thirdly, about the abode of death and envy. And all this together, they're forming the foundation of the Bhakti Yoga, giving us deep insight into why detachment from materiality and attachment to Krishna's lotus feet is the only path to freedom. In the shloka, we see the phrase forward steps of the Lord. So, what it refers to is the divine presence and activities which sustain the entire cosmic order, upper planetary systems, like say Swarga, the lower planetary systems like Patal, and the early realms. The Lord's lotus feet are not merely symbolic, they are the ultimate refuge of all living entities, which provide protection from fear and fulfillment of needs. This material world is fraught with uncertainties. There's death, there's distress, there is despair, and whatnot. So, taking shelter of the lotus feet eliminates fear by aligning us with His divine will. And whether material necessities or spiritual liberation, everything is provided by the Lord when we surrender. And that is why it becomes an important aspect for us. Secondly, this when we talk about the lotus feet, it is not just this earth, but everything finds refuge in the Lord's feet. Pure devotional service begins with surrender to His feet. Tava kara-kamala-vare, nakham, adbhuta-śṛṅgam. This is what Prahlāda Mahārāja prayed. So there is unshakable faith in divine protection. Absolute dependence on the Lord is the central theme. Sarva-dharmān parityajya. And Krishna promises in this 18.66 that he will give complete protection. Mokṣayiṣyāmi. So even supper soul is subordinate to Bhagwan, confirming the Lord's supremacy. And we have devotees examples. Bali Maharaj, Prabhupada. A story of Bali Maharaj, which we'll be seeing in the Canto 8, it illustrates this principle. When Lord Vamandev took away Bali's wealth and kingdom, Bali remained steadfast in his devotion. Despite losing everything, he was not disturbed. And Lord rewarded him with position far superior to that of demigods on the planet Sutal. So he lost all possession, yet gained Lord's eternal association. His Holiness Harivilas Maharaj said, Prabhupada gave up everything, and by that surrender, ISKCON expanded globally. So when Lord takes away everything, He is preparing to give you everything. This demonstrates Lord's special favor. By taking away material opulences, Lord frees the devotees from illusion and elevates them to a higher planetary system, higher spiritual platform. And we also see the transcendental existence. A devotee lives in Vaikuntha, the spiritual realm, regardless of material circumstances, because they are always engaged in Krishna service. And thus we understand the importance of real shelter versus demigod dependence here. Demigods are not independent, they too rely on Bhagavan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught, Jivera Swarupa hai Krishnera Nityadas. So don't depend on anyone other than Krishna. And once Brahmaji explains this to Narada, then it touches the most important issue which keeps us bonded in this material realm. The reality behind procreation and illusion of sex pleasure. So it's purposeful design, not mere pleasure. Pleasure in sex exists by divine design to ensure procreation despite many difficulties. This pleasure giving coating is not false. It comes from the Lord's body, but it is perverted due to material contamination. And that is where the trap of lust and repeated births come into picture. Lust is actually perverted love for Krishna. As Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita 3rd chapter 39 to 41st shloka. And this is something like, as we'll be seeing in the 7th canto, Punha Punha Charvita Charvananam, chewing the chewed. And lust is never satiated, never satisfied. Manusmriti says, Na jatu kama kamanam upabhogena samyati. What we are seeing today in Kali Yuga is misuse of family life and modern illusions. Prabhupada ji in the purport talks about use of contraceptives as the greatest material pollution. Because materialistic family life is maithunya agaraha, a prison of sex attraction. Just like working in tech companies is like slaves and ignoring Krishna consciousness, this is spiritual suicide. Real family duty is to raise devotees. Procreation is justified only when done to raise Krishna conscious children. Srila Prabhupada says, begetting children without training them in Krishna consciousness is an animalistic act. So the solution is to transform lust into love. Lust is perverted form of love for God. If trained properly, even a late beginner can elevate lust to prema. Kamat krodha abhijayate. Krishna has shown this chain reaction of lust in 62nd and 63rd shloka of Bhagavad Gita. So, after touching this topic, Prabhupada touches the next important topic of death, hell, misfortune, envy. So, Mitra is the controlling deity of death. Mitra is often linked with Varuna in Vedic literature. It is described here as the deity overseeing the process of death, which is connected to the evacuating function. So, this signifies the natural process of elimination and decay in the material world, culminating in death. And this also comes from the Virat root of Krishna. The rectum, as the outlet for West, symbolizes the negative aspects of material existence: envy, misfortune, and the suffering associated with hellish conditions. These are the byproducts of material life driven by ignorance and disconnection from the Lord. So, the universal form is a meditation tool to help devotees understand that everything in the material world, even the process of elimination and death, originates from the Lord's transcendental body. However, these aspects also remind us of the temporary and often miserable nature of material existence. That is a natural process governed by Mitra. It is an inevitable part of material life. Living beings are subject to the 6 stages of material existence: birth, growth, maintenance, byproducts, dwindling, and death. So, this cycle is orchestrated by the Lord's will. But then, what makes us more suffering is envy and misfortune. Irsha arises from the soul's forgetfulness of its eternal relationship with Krishna, leading to competition, pride, attachment to material possessions. And this results in misfortune and sufferings akin to hellish conditions. Hellish conditions indicates the consequences of sinful reactions driven by material desires. As Krishna had mentioned in the 39th shloka of third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, lust and envy are like fire, never satisfied, binding the soul to repeated sufferings. So if you talk about the essence and application, what we get from the shlokas is first, faith in protection brings real peace. Real confidence arises when one truly believes Krishna will protect in all situations. In one of the lectures, Maharaj was saying, we did Aarti and offered Bhoga mentally in Paris jail because devotional service never stops. Secondly, sex life is a trap unless regulated spiritually. Only regulated family life with spiritual responsibility is acceptable. Otherwise, one becomes a prisoner of lust and transmigrates endlessly. Thirdly, reject imitation religion and rituals for wealth. Modern rituals for material gain done by so-called brahmanas, they are a curse, not a blessing. Devotional service is the only true spiritual process. Free will has two options. One, follow Krishna's instructions, be liberated. Reject Krishna and remain bound by the Maithunagar. In Bhagavatam 6 canto, 17th chapter, 28th shloka, you're going to see Narayana Paraha Sarve. The devotees have no fear even of hell. The soul is eternally the Lord's servant. Sense gratification leads to bondage. The Virat Roop teaches detachment from illusion through knowledge of Krishna's universal form. And that is why Arjuna did the final surrender, wherein he said in the 73rd shloka, I will act according to your instructions. Karishye tava vachanam. So these shlokas, they're teaching us to fearlessly take complete shelter in Krishna's lotus feet. Warn us how material world centered on sexualities keeps us bound birth after birth. By surrender, by association of devotees, by strict regulation of senses, even lust can be transformed into the purest love for Krishna. So we need to bring about this detachment from material life. We need to bring about transformation of the negative qualities. Envy and misfortune can be overcome by cultivating humility and devotion. Satam Prasangan is one of the shlokas in the 8th canto, which shows that association with devotees purifies the heart, transforming demoniac tendencies into devotion. So we need to accept this. Bhagavatam teaches us even the process of death and negative qualities. They're a part of Lord's divine universal form. Yet they highlight the miseries of material existence, which is keeping us bonded. By meditating on the Lord's transcendental nature, surrendering to his lotus feet, we can transcend these limitations. So let us chant the holy name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So chanting holy name, associate with devotees and engage in pure devotional service to overcome envy, fear of death, all material miseries, attaining the eternal shelter of Krishna. And that is what is the objective of the Bhaktilata Beach. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has asked us to please nurture this sapling with constant chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra so that this grows, pierces the material sky, reaches the spiritual realm. From there, it has to go till the Golok Vrindavan and there reach the lotus feet of Krishna, where it will have the fruit, the flower. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has asked us to do. And this exactly is what we understand from these three shlokas today. When we understand how the forward steps of the Lord are the shelter for us, which provides us protection, how the genitals are a cause of pleasure that counteracts the distress of begetting, and how the evacuating outlet is the place of envy, misfortune, death, hell, etc. So let us start concentrating on this form of Krishna and then move to the Sham Sundar Swarup. Meditate continuously on him. Let the Radha Kunja Bihari see us and let us concentrate on his lotus feet permanently. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.